Hey everybody, this is Terry Weigel, the Quick House Buyer, with your Thursday's Thoughts. This week I'm going to discuss with you some of the strategies we talked a little bit about at the Wholesaling Boot Camp, the Wholesaling for Massive Profits Boot Camp that we just held this past weekend. If you're like me, you absolutely hate to sit on the phone for 20 and 30 and 40 minutes talking to a seller just to find out they're not even motivated. See, I've got 3 critical criteria that I look for when I'm talking to a seller, and if I hear these things, I want to react immediately. If I'm not hearing any of these 3 critical components, I'm off the phone. The first one is, I want to hear their motivation. I want to know what it is that's driving them to call me. Because if I go through the process of what it is that I do, and all I hear from them is saying, oh, well, geez, no, I got to have full price, I've wasted a lot of time. So I'm looking for the motivation. Are we talking about a divorce? Are we talking about a relocation? Are we talking about foreclosure? Are we talking about a job loss? Too many repairs? What are we dealing with? And if I find that out quickly, I now know where it is I need to focus my conversation. So the first one is, what is their motivation? Second one is, I'm looking for a house that has a lot of repairs. And I'm talking repairs that they just cannot afford to complete. Something like the roof, the foundation, the electrical, the AC, some of the systems units that they can't afford to repair. But if they don't have that stuff repaired, they certainly can't get top dollar. Which brings us to the third critical component, and that is a house that has a lot of equity. Now don't get me wrong, a house that has a little bit of equity but still needs repairs, you could still work short sales on. The problem is that working short sales right now, the lenders aren't as flexible as they have been, at least not recently. If I'm dealing straight with a seller and there's equity, then I'm able to go ahead and negotiate directly with the seller. So I'm looking for a house. The third critical component is the equity. I'm looking for a house that has a loan on it that is over 10 years. That means that when I'm asking the seller how long they've lived in the house, I'm also following up with how old is the loan? Because there's a big difference between how long somebody could live in a house versus how old the loan is. And if you find somebody that has a house that has a loan on it that's over 10 years old, you now know you've got equity to work with and equity to negotiate with. So I'm looking for the motivation, I'm looking for the repairs, and I'm looking for the equity. Now, I do a lot of direct marketing to houses that meet those criteria. So when I get a call and somebody calls me up and they say, hey, I got this postcard or I got this letter, what is it that you do? I usually start with, well, what I do is I buy houses that need a lot of repairs. Or maybe I'm working with a client who, might be relocating or going through a divorce and have to sell their house pretty quickly. They don't want 2 payments. Or maybe it's something that we're dealing with, a foreclosure, and we have to react pretty quickly. Depending on what your situation is, depends on how I go about buying the house. What are we working with you, and how can I solve that problem? Well, the next things that they say to me, the next words that they speak are going to tell me whether they're motivated or not. And this usually takes place within the first 2 or 3 minutes of our conversation. So if their next words are, oh, well, no, I'm not facing a foreclosure. I want full price for my house. I thank them very kindly for their time, and we end the conversation. If they tell me that they're facing a foreclosure, now I do what I call the create pain and provide a solution. Well, how fast are we dealing with on this foreclosure? 2 weeks? Holy cow, we got to move fast. We got to get a move on this so that we can stop this foreclosure, because you don't want that on your record. I can help you with this, but it's probably best if we get together in person. So what I'm doing is I'm agitating the situation. The holy cow, 2 weeks, we don't have a lot of time to, well, we can solve this, but I need to get with you pretty quick. By doing that, I'm letting them know I'm their solution, but I'm also creating that anxiety, if you will, that, we got to solve this, because truly 2 weeks is not a lot of time to solve a foreclosure. You can do it. Absolutely, we can do it, but they need to know that there's a sense of urgency. Because if you don't create a sense of urgency, then they're going to go on to the next investor. And if you don't create the sense that you are the solution, they're certainly going to go on to the next investor. So that's our Thursday's thoughts for this week. Put it into practice, put it into play. You'll be amazed at how much less time you spend on the phone talking with a non-motivated seller and how many more deals you can actually complete by working with a motivated seller. This is Terry Weigel, the Quick House Buyer. Be sure and visit us at TotalFinancialLiberty.com. Thanks again.